Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this latest edition of Broncos Beat. I'm Alexis Perry, and I am thrilled to be joined by Matt Boyer from Broncos TV, Cecil Lammey from 1043 The Fan, and for the first time on the show, Frank Schwab from Yahoo Sports. Welcome to the Beat, Frank.
Hey, what's going on? Ready? It's that time of the off season where you're just ready for football.
We are happy to have you on the show. You guys, the Broncos don't franchise tag a player every year, but when they do, they always come to an agreement on a long-term deal, as seen with Matt Prater, Demaryius Thomas, and Von Miller. The deadline to get a deal done with Justin Simmons is rapidly approaching on July 15th. So given the Broncos' history in signing their franchise tag players, does that give you more confidence that they're going to work something out with Justin Simmons?
I've been confident from day one in this situation because we were all at the scouting combine and John always like, yeah, he's not going anywhere. You know, he's just kind of emphasizing how Justin Simmons meant so much to this team. And knowing that history of franchise tag players that always get their long-term deals from the Denver Broncos, I always felt that confidence. But we also know deals get done at deadlines. You're going to negotiate right up to the 11th hour. So I'm expecting this thing to get done, July 10th, maybe at the earliest, but probably around that July 15th deadline. But no question, Justin Simmons has been such a key acquisition for this team and a guy that they want to keep around as long as possible.
Cecil, you mentioned it. I mean, I think that you see that Elway wants him, but also Justin Simmons wants to be in Denver just as much as the Broncos want him to be there because he's had such a great experience in Vic Fangio's system. Remember, before last season, Justin Simmons' season high pass breakups or passes defense was 4. He had 15 in 2019. So I think that this system fits him perfectly. And also, I think he's coming into his own as a leader. We've seen him at the Black Lives Matter peaceful protest downtown with his teammates. The amount of respect they have for him and the amount of respect that he's garnered lately, I think shows just how important he's going to be in a season where they might not have a ton of time to get chemistry built in person.
And guys, I think if we look at this from an NFL angle, it's not like he plays a position that's tough to figure out. The market for high safeties is always about $14 million a year. We saw it with Kevin Byard. We saw it with Eddie Jackson. We've seen it with the Honey Badger. It's pretty easy to figure this one out. It's going to be probably 5 years, probably $14 million a year, 20 to 25 million guaranteed. The market is very clear on what elite safeties are. I think the Broncos agree he's an elite safety. Justin Simmons isn't going to settle for less. So that's why I think it's just getting the details done. And like Cecil said, deadlines make deals. So I don't think there's any worry at all because this isn't like running backs where it's really hard to figure out, or quarterbacks where it's a bunch of money. It's pretty obvious what Justin Simmons is worth and what he's going to get.
How important will it be for Simmons to be out there with Kareem Jackson this year, given the youth and really unproven talent throughout the Broncos secondary?
Right. And when we look at the cornerback position, that's where the concern is, right? A.J. Bouye gave up that league-high 806 yards passing last year. Now it's a new team and different system, better pass rush. We're all expecting Bouye to bounce back, and he's had Pro Bowl seasons before, but it's Michael Ojemudia, it's Devontae Harris, it's any of these, Duke Dawson, these other guys that maybe don't have as much experience that you're just kind of wondering about. So having Kareem Jackson back there, that he's money. Having Justin Simmons back there, such a breath of fresh air and can solidify that back end of the defense. When you have questions at corner, and I didn't bring up Bryce Callahan, how healthy is he? How many games is he going to play? You have those questions at corner. You have 0 questions at safety. That's a very good, fact to have if you're the Denver Broncos.
Cecil, you mentioned a lot of times on the sidelines, you're going to see a lot of the secondary guys go up to Justin and say, hey, what did you see? What was the play call? Back in 2018, Simmons was the guy some weeks with the headset in or with the getting the play calls from the sideline and relaying. It wasn't the middle linebackers. It was Justin Simmons. So his knowledge and his ability to communicate has been demonstrated before. And I think I think the Broncos are going to have to rely on that pretty strongly here in 2020.
And I think one other aspect of this is the value to the Broncos is look at the guys they're going to face this year. Justin Simmons, if he's playing in the deep role, you got Tyreek Hill, you got Henry Ruggs now. You got a lot of receivers out in LA with the Chargers. I almost said San Diego. It's still not out of me. So, and if you go to the tight ends, if he's asked to help on the tight ends, there are great tight ends in this, Waller and Kelsey. So I just think that the Broncos need him just to face these divisional foes because of what they bring on offense. He's a perfect fit for what they need. His value is never going to be higher than it is now.
Well, you kind of mentioned his value a little bit, how much he's actually worth, but let's talk contract for a second, because there might be a number of second-round guys like Cortland Sutton, Dalton Reisner, and Drew Lock who won't have fifth-year options, meaning the Broncos are going to have to pay them sooner. So does this make getting a deal done with Justin Simmons even more urgent, given the money that some of these other guys will likely deserve in the next couple of years?
Yeah, and wrap him up. You know, we have a Mount Rushmore of Broncos, and I think that Justin Simmons is on that Mount Rushmore of Broncos. And as we transition into the lock era, is what I'm going to call it, like, you're going to see that new generation. You've got the first rounders that have the protection of the fifth-year option. Your Bradley Chubbs, you know, Fant, et cetera. And those guys look like they have fantastic upside for this team. But those second rounders are working out, which is great, but you're going to have to pay them sooner because they only have those 4-year contracts. You only have one franchise tag. So if you're the Denver Broncos, take care of Justin Simmons because you've got a lot of great young talent coming up behind him that'll get paid soon.
Some of that young talent, Cecil, you know, we haven't mentioned it yet, but Philip Lindsay at the end of last season, John Elway said, hey, you know, we might look into a restructure. That hasn't happened as of yet. So he's a name to keep in mind. The other name to keep in mind that I was looking at, no, Von Miller's coming into after this season. Von Miller will be in the last year of his deal. So yeah, getting Justin Simmons wrapped up now lets you kind of focus on, hey, you know, is Von Miller going to finish his career as a Bronco? I know Broncos country wants it, but I think that's going to be a question that John Elway and the personnel department is going to have to ask themselves after the season.
You know, I think one part of this that we haven't talked about, and nobody really wants to talk about it, what happens to the salary cap in 2021? I think, you know, we're talking about maybe games without fans, half full, quarter full, whatever. The revenue drop might be huge. What if the salary cap gets cut $50 million? I think that's something the Broncos have to worry about. I think it's something Justin Simmons has to worry about. He doesn't want to play on the franchise tag, come to next offseason, and all of a sudden the money's not there and we just don't know how this is going to shake out. I do think that's one thing that everyone's going to have to kind of navigate at least and think about, hey, if we give Justin Simmons $14 million a year, what's going to happen next year if the salary cap goes way down?
And we've been so used to the salary cap going up every season, right? Like it's just up and up, and the NFL growing and growing. But I think it's kind of a new era for everybody, and everybody's got to be flexible, stay on your toes if you're the NFL. And as Matt brings up, the Von Miller thing is going to be huge for this team because you're just going to run out of money, and you've got a lot of great talent. This is what happens when you draft well. When you draft well, you have tough decisions, as the Broncos had tough decisions years ago, let's say with Malik Jackson, right? And they, you know, Derek Wolfe or Malik Jackson, you had to pick one. You couldn't keep both. Well, I think as Matt points out, you know, you're going to have some tough decisions coming up because this team is so jam-packed with young talent.